Grandpa stole his first buggy in 1892. I met your grandma pig slopping in 46.
Oh, every Christmas we'd visit my Uncle Fred in prison.
You have found us, America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. I am your host, Fisher. Nice to have you along on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And this segment of the show today brought to you by 23andMe.com DNA. Boy, do we have some guests for you today. First of all, we're going to talk to a lady who discovered that her fourth great-grandfather fell down a ferry hole and became a great musician as a result. Yeah, kind of strange, isn't it? And because of this legend in her family, she met another distant cousin. We're going to have him on as well, who actually created a song around this story. So it's going to be a really fun segment with Kathleen Caldas and David Stone coming up in 9 or 10 minutes, so stay close for that. And then later in the show, my good friend, the photo expert Ron Fox, is going to be back talking about some unusual places you might find some ancestral photos. So we are loaded up today and glad to have you along. And don't forget to sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter if you have not gotten to it yet. It's absolutely free. Just sign up at ExtremeGenes.com. We give you a column each week, a couple of links to some great shows and to some great stories that as a genealogist you would find to be a lot of fun. We have thousands of people on there now, and we'd love to have you on as well. Plus, sign up for our Patron Club, where you can help support the show and get all kinds of bonus podcasts and early access to shows and all kinds of other great benefits. Sign up at patreon.com/extremegenes or through a link at extremegenes.com. Now, off to Boston for David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society and AmericanAncestors.org. He's the guy that brings us our family Histoire news. What do you have for us today, David?
Well, I'm going to start up with a story from good old jolly England in regards to a lady named Janice Sharp who found an old business card for her great aunt who was actually a suffragette. Because of this, she decided to do some genealogy and dig into the woman's story.
And you know what I love about this story, David, is the picture of the card. I mean, it is just tattered and worn, but it says on her business card, suffragette.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not just a belief. It was her occupation as far as she was concerned.
Yeah, founder and organizer of Suffragette Crusaders. This lady was arrested a couple of times, and actually her own husband was involved in the movement. And it's amazing to think that it's less than 100 years ago that our own female ancestors in the United States didn't have the right to vote.
Incredible. That's right. And it all kind of broke through on both sides of the pond about the same time.
Mm-hmm. You know, my wife will complain occasionally about the hair in the sink. You know, it's not exactly keeping all of it on my scalp these days. Maybe I should put it in a book. Well, somebody did do that, and George Washington's hair was found recently in a college in Schenectady, New York. The Union College librarian ran with glee after they opened up Gaines's Universal Register of American and British Calendar for the year 1793. No, it wasn't an optional bookmark. The book itself was owned by the grandson of Washington's first secretary, Alexander Hamilton.
Wow. Isn't that cool? And I actually had somebody ask me, they said, well, how do they know? How could they prove it was Washington's hair? You know, well, number one, it looks like other proven samples of his hair. And secondly, it was in the line of Alexander Hamilton. So I would think they would know what they had there.
You know, the sad thing about it is because there's no bulb at the end of the hair, you can't get DNA from it.
That's right. That's right. You can't get it just from hair. You have to have the root as well, which means you got to give it a good tug. And if they're actually pulling it out of a living person, that might be the wrong way to go.
Yeah, that's true. Well, my descendants make me pull my hair out all the time. I'll just have to give it to them from now on. Well, speaking of descendants, I want to say congratulations to little Aidan Moreno, who was born recently with the same birthday as his mother and his grandmother. The chances of that, they say, are 1 in 48 million.
Isn't that incredible? I think that's the most incredible aspect of it. It's his maternal grandmother, and I guess she felt a little put out that her own daughter was born on her birthday, took some of the fire away from Grandma's birthday at the time, and now this little guy comes along and steals a little glamour from both of them, or brings a lot more attention to them. But those odds, I mean, 48 million to 1, I mean, we play lotteries for a lot worse odds odds than that, right?
Exactly. And, in doing my own Onentafel and looking at my genealogy, I don't even recall any ancestor in my tree that has a birth date of mine in June.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
interesting.
Mother to grandmother. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, my next story kind of has a creepy pirate theme to it. Dead men may tell tales in Massachusetts. The pirate ship Widow was found by Barry Clifford over 20 years ago now, and they're still recovering artifacts from the site, and it's not just cannons and gold coins. They found this clumped pile with artifacts from sand and everything mixed in, but also with human bones.
Ooh.
We don't know if it's Bellamy, the captain of the Widow, but it could be one of the crew. Some of them actually made it to shore or washed up to shore and are buried. But this could prove to have DNA. And maybe if you have an ancestor you suspect was a pirate from Massachusetts, you should be calling the museum in West Yarmouth now.
Wouldn't that be interesting to match up and find that you actually have DNA ties to a pirate on that ship? That's incredible. I hope that works out for somebody.
I wish it was my ancestor. Why can't I have? You have a good batch of ancestors. I got boring farmers, but that's okay. They
have
still
a
count.
pirate ancestor, but it's not this one because he wasn't on that ship.
Shucks, I'm sorry. One thing that I do find in gold is the bloggers that are out there, because they give me all sorts of things to read. For a genealogist, I'm always looking for new and exciting things to talk about. Amy Johnson Crow is no exception, and on her blog, amyjohnsоncrow.com, she has a current blog that talks about the 5 things you need to know about DNA testing for genealogy, which is a good common question. And also she talks about where to look for church records for your ancestors.
Nice.
So it's great stuff. Amy Johnson Crow, CROW.com, and you can check that out. Well, that's about all I have for this week in Beantown. Don't forget, if you want to become a member of NEHGS, our website, AmericanAncestors.org, will bring you right to the portal, and from there you can go online and you can save $20 if you use the checkout code EXTREME for Extreme Genes.
All right. Thank you so much, David. Good to talk to you again. We'll see you next week. And coming up next, we're going to talk to a lady who discovered her ancestor fell down a ferry hole and became a great musician. We'll tell you a story about how this has kind of changed her life as a result. Coming up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA-certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Hi, Genies. It's Scott Fisher, host of Extreme Genes, with an invitation for you to join our brand spanking new Extreme Genes Patrons Club. Now, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is where, for as little as $1 a month, Genies everywhere can take advantage of Extreme Genes rewards, such as early access to our latest podcasts, members-only bonus podcasts, acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, and special monthly live online question and answer sessions with well-known family history experts. Catch visits with genealogy stars such as David Allen Lambert, photo detective Maureen Taylor, DNA expert C.C. Moore, and many other experts and storytellers. If you find yourself craving more stories, more ideas for digging up your dead, more inspiration, the Extreme Genes Patrons Club is for you. The rewards start at just $1 a month. Find out more now. Just go to extremegenes.com and click on our special Extreme Genes Patrons Club link at the top right. Or go to patreon.com/extremegenes. You know, it's always about the stories, to me, that makes our ancestors come alive. Hi, it's Fisher, and it's Extreme Genes, America's family history show, and extremegenes.com. And this segment is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. And I'm really pleased to have on the line with me right now from NEHGS, one of the genealogists there, Kathleen Caldis, who recently wrote what they call the Vita Brevis. It's just basically a blog. And she wrote about one of her ancestors from up in, Nova Scotia, Kathleen?
Yes, up in Cape Breton from Lynch's River, which is near St. Peter's.
And the story was just fantastic. I just figured I got to get this person on the phone and talk about this because it's not only in your branch of the family, it's pretty much everywhere. Tell us what you found.
Well, when my family first told stories about this ancestor who was in this magical land of Cape Breton, and he fell down a hole when he was a young child and was given the gift of music by the fairies. And my great-grandfather and my great-granduncle had actually told the stories to the generation above me. And when I was probably in my older childhood, early teenager years, I actually heard the story and was always fascinated by it, but never went into the details. My family left Cape Breton in the late 1800s. So over the generations, the story kind of became more of a skeleton than anything really colorful and full. And many years ago, I actually hooked up with another genealogist up there, and I started doing research with the books and history books, and I found out that it wasn't just a story from, like, my family. It was a legend up there.
Really?
So the more I learned about it, the more fascinated I became. And
how do you research fairy holes, Kathleen? That's the thing.
Well, it started coming up, and I didn't even think anything of it when I saw it in some notes from my great-granduncle. And it wasn't until I started Googling the name Donald Campbell, and the fairy stories started to come about from many resources. And the more I learned about it, the more I had to find out more. And then I started to hook in the keyword fairy. And it just, that's when I realized the full scope of this story.
Is there art related to this? Do they have photos of him up there? You know, pictures that people have created from this fiddler? What era are we talking about?
It was probably the late 1700s.
Okay.
And what happened, though, is the story was always told that it happened in Cape Breton, but he wasn't on Cape Breton at the time when he was a young child.
Well, that's the nature of stories, right?
Yeah. It just became a tall tale. And the thing about tall tales is you remember them.
That's
and the
right.
larger they are, the more that they're remembered. And for my family leaving in the late 1800s to actually carry even a portion of that story to the late 20th century is reflective of that sort of the tall tales become legendary in the family, and that's what's remembered. So when I was writing this blog, I started to remember, that's probably how it was before, people were writing reports in their word processor and writing down genealogies. You had to remember the stories.
Judy Russell once said that people who don't pass their stories along, those stories are lost within 3 generations usually.
Right.
And look at you, though, because of the power of this one, it's continued on. And now as you look back into it, you found, it just doesn't live in your branch of the family. It's all over the place.
And the musicians still continue to this day up in Cape Breton because supposedly the legend, and David Stone can explain more of the legend, but the legend somehow included that the fairies gave the gift of music through generations, for multiple generations. And it has actually lasted through today. One of Donald Campbell's direct ancestors through one of the other sisters. I'm off of one of his daughters, and this cousin up in Cape Breton is off of another sister. I met him for the first time in the fall, and he is a talented musician as well up there, and he's a direct descendant of Donald Campbell. And he's kept the fiddling and that music and storytelling throughout. David Stone is a cousin of a cousin, so we actually share the same cousins.
Okay.
So it's interesting because they're all musicians up there.
Isn't that crazy? And it goes back to this one guy, Donald Campbell. Now, he's your what, fourth great?
Fourth great-grandfather, and I'm off of his daughter, Anne.
Okay. And then this guy, David, you met, he comes through who?
He's actually through the Stone family, which lived right next door. So his ancestors, he has cousins that are the mutual relatives and the collateral relatives of one of the other daughters of Donald Campbell.
Well, that's what happens in small communities, right? I mean, just everybody's related multiple ways, and that's exciting. I want to talk to David. I know we've got him on the line. Let's bring David in and find out his version of this and what he's heard and how it's kind of captivated his life in music. So, David, how long has this fairy hole story been in your clan?
Well, it's been in one branch of my clan for 160 years. The Stone line down in Cape Breton, where I'm from, had 13 branches, and I come from the last branch, and these guys came from the first branch. So
okay.
It's been around.
It's been around. And so you grew up as a musician, and you obviously have latched on to the stories from your ancestry and turned them into songs, which I think is unbelievable. And this is a good one for a song.
It is. As I said to Kathleen earlier, songs tend to write themselves, and when you get a story that has been around and that a lot of people know about, and it's been published in books and talked about by people all over Cape Breton for over 100 years, it's pretty easy.
And the song, I would imagine, relates not just to members of your own family, because it is part of the culture of your area, right?
Yeah, these people, I mean, they grew up with strong beliefs in faith and in superstition. I mean, I was born in 1960, and my mother's parents were born turn of the century, so we were told every horrible, scary story you could believe sitting in their front room and then sent out the door to walk home in the dark. So, you know, that's part of the culture there.
So how long have you been writing these genealogical folk songs?
The sort of historical genealogical ones, in the last probably 10 to 15 years. I started writing sea songs and pirate songs and that sort of stuff when I was living in Toronto, trying to connect with my maritime past. But once I got back here to Nova Scotia in the 90s, my focus started drifting more towards history, and I've worked in the museum here telling stories and playing music there for a number of years in the early 2000s. And so around then, it really, once I started being able to do it as part of my living day and night, it became easy to just listen to people talk and listen. And, as one of my friends like to say, he'll say, "Oh, I can see the wheels turning now," and you're about to say, "Oh, there's a song in that."
Yeah.
And I tend to hear a verse or a chorus in just about everything that has to do with this part of the world here.
All right, well, let's listen to your song about Donald Campbell's fairies. Just a little taste of it.
Donald be a fiddler fine, his talent known from far and wide, from Christmas Island across the lake to Big Pond some can find. That his bow was blessed by fairies, by the little folk, they said one time, who said 3 generations fine of Campbell fiddlers be. His father John, a soldier brave, from Scotland journeyed o'er the waves, boldly fought the rebels off with General MacLean. As a boy on Argyle soil 'tis said a fairy paid a call, and she handed him her blessed bow and a fiddler grand as he.
That is absolutely brilliant. I don't think I've heard anybody actually write a song around their own genealogy quite like that before. That is a beautiful thing. How many songs you say you've written based on family lore?
Oh, there's a couple hundred. Not just family, the whole area. I sort of latched on to doing genealogy. I have an uncle in Ottawa who got me turned on to this in the 1980s. He'd been researching our Stone family since the 1950s, and he would send me stories and say, oh, maybe you can write a song about that. Oh, maybe you can write a song about that. And indirectly, he got me actually hooked on genealogy and researching land petitions. These early land petitions that people filled out told their life story in some cases.
Right.
Where they came from, how they got there, and you start reading these things, and Donald Campbell, the guy in the story, his father, John, has about a 2-page land petition from 1821 that talked about fighting in the American Revolution, going back to Scotland, marrying his sweetheart in Scotland, and coming to Nova Scotia in the early 1800s. And then the folklore kicks in after you get past there.
Well, and I think the ability to absorb the full impact of your heritage through music, through art, through storytelling is really the way to go. I think those who are just working on a tree, it's a great start, but that's really pretty limited, isn't it?
It is. Thankfully, the onset of the World Wide Web and FamilySearch.org and then Ancestry, and I mean, half the time you don't even have to leave your desk. You can just sit here and search online, and fortunately I live fairly close to the public archives here in Halifax, so it's not that big a stretch to go down there, and what you think is going to take you an hour ends up being like 8.
It's always that way, David.
You shut the microfilm off and it's like they're announcing it's time to close. So
right, which is just when you find the thing you've been looking for all day long, right?
Yeah, and then you say, well, I got to go back tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you, sir, are a family historian, way beyond just the researcher, and I'm very impressed with the music and the tales you tell and how you're passing them along. David Stone in Halifax, Nova Scotia, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hearing more of your music.
You're very welcome.
Boy, you got to appreciate that. Somebody taking their family history and turning it into classic music. Good stuff. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to my photo buddy, Ron Fox, and we're going to get into some unusual places you might not have thought of for finding some of your ancestral photographs. But it's going to require a little digging. Stay close. We'll get to it in 5 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by ZapTheGrandmaGap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks. Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
right, back at it. Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, and this segment is brought to you by LegacyTree.com. You know, we're really lucky on Extreme Genes to have great photo experts, and perhaps one of the great photo finders in America is my friend of over 20 years, Ron Fox. And Ron, welcome back. Good to have you on your first time in 2018 on Extreme Genes.
Yes, it's always great to be here and to be able to discuss finding photos and their connections to family.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have been talking a little lately about some out-of-the-box ways of thinking about locating photographs, because really those are the greatest treasures that you can get a hold of, in my mind. In fact, I was going through some pictures with my granddaughter, Haley, not long ago. She's 5 years old. She's already into it, loves the pirate stories, loves to hear about the volunteer firemen. And we were looking in the ancestral coin book at one of the coins that was connected with an ancestor and said, well, where's that person's picture? We don't have the picture. She was upset that we didn't have a picture of the pirate from 1695. And I had to explain to her, no, there are no photographs of pirates from those times. So she's just trying to figure that out. So we all want to see what our people looked like. And sometimes those photos just don't make it down our branch of the family. Sometimes they weren't taken at all. Sometimes it was too early. But there are ways to find some things when you just think there's no place left to look. So where would you start, Ron?
Well, you know, many people went to high school, and most people, I should say, and then college, and even a high school newspaper. I'm a student of the high school of the mid-60s to the 70s, and we had a photograph-oriented newspaper in our little high school. It went back into the 50s. And if you look at colleges, they have college newspapers, and some of their photographs in those go back to the 1910 period. So,
wow, you're right. I was aware of the college ones. We had one in my school. And by the way, mine have been digitized from my college. And I actually found an article about me online from my college newspaper. I would not have thought about high school newspapers, but you're right. Everybody has them, but most of those have not been digitized. So in my mind, that kind of means you have to go pay your alma mater a little visit and see what they have in that storage room.
It's a storage room, but usually it's the school library that has them, or the principal's office at the vault, being kept along with all of the diploma records and the grade records. But I'm telling you, there are shots of family members that may be gone or were camera shy or never really had a lot of photos being taken at home. You can find them in those high school newspapers, and especially if they were participating in sports. Sports, of course, was the most covered, or the cheerleaders or the queen and prince of the high school dance. But
or the class leaders.
The class leaders and the thespians. And then, of course, there's pictures of all the clubs, the future farmers, the future scientists, the future business people. Those photos are there. And it's a source where if you're in a community where your family grew up, it's very easy to go down to the school or to the city library that may have them now if the schools are no longer there. But 10 to 1, they're still in the schools. And the schools also keep at least one set of annuals.
That's right. That's right. Well, a lot of these annual yearbooks now are getting online. They are getting digitized. I'm still looking for one for my half-brother who passed away when I was 8 years old, and he went to a school in New Jersey, but it's not out for his year yet, so I'm hoping at some point that will come along and I can see what he was up to when he was in school, because I just didn't know him that well. Now, you know, one question that comes up a lot, I think, for people who are getting older about photographs is, what do I do with these things? You know, sometimes they don't have somebody that will value the pictures. Maybe they don't have descendants, or they have nieces or nephews that just aren't that interested, and they're fearful they're going to be thrown away. What would you recommend to people in that situation?
Well, one thing that people are doing now is they are having them digitized. And when they digitize a 16-millimeter film or an 8-millimeter film or a series of photographs, those are all on digital formats. And the originals are the things that they say, what do we do with this now that we've scanned all of these? And you know what? There are city libraries, there are universities, specifically universities, and if your film happened to capture something like a major parade or a visit of a president or an opening of a bank or things that were important in the community, whether it was the Elks Club parading or whatever it might be, those universities, many times, they love donations and you can get a tax deduction for it, but they will also purchase them sometimes.
And then hopefully they'll digitize some of those historic things and share them with everybody. But it also means hopefully other people have done the same, and you might be able to find some things in their archives that are getting digitized through various universities that are useful to you in your genealogical research.
It's true. It's a major process on the part of these universities and colleges. I'm aware of many mid to large-sized universities that will have over 1 million photos that have not been digitized yet, and some of them not even cataloged yet. So the likelihood of you being able to find something in a community in which your family was either a prominent person or even just a person that was active in the community, there's a good likelihood that the university may have photographs of that individual, but you're going to have to dig. But every day, more and more are coming online.
Now, you had some connections to a university back in West Virginia, right? Because you had family from back there. How do you research there? Because I know you don't go there very often.
No, I don't. But they have it online, and they're one of those universities that's increasing the number of individuals that they have, A, in their collection, and B, they've been outreaching to smaller county and community libraries and historical societies and working with them. And everybody is sort of putting in their own collections onto the university's website. So I did find a number of my relatives in the University of West Virginia.
Wow. And some of them that you didn't have pictures of previously?
Absolutely. And, you know, you're going to get rare opportunities where you're going to find a daguerreotype or an ambrotype or a tintype, something that's really old, 100 to 150 years old. And you're going to get real lucky and you're going to find an early ancestor.
And, you know, it happens all the time. The thing that's hardest, I think, as a so-called expert in genealogy, is you think you know a lot, and then you always find out, oh, there's something you never thought of. There's something you never considered, because we just don't know what we don't know. But we can know that there are things out there that we haven't even thought of, and we just need to keep looking.
That's right. There's city directories, there are phone directories that will help us locate an individual. But once you've located them, see what the community has. And many times, you know, newspapers will have photographs that they will keep. Smaller newspapers, for a long time, they may have thrown away the old glass negatives. But in many cases, they still have a print of that original photograph. How many people submitted photographs for their marriage?
Wow.
The wives either have a shot of them as an intended bride, or you'll have a shot of mom and dad at the altar or coming out of the church that was placed in the newspaper. And I really think about those families who have had a fire or a flood and have lost all of their family photos. This is another source where you might be able to rebuild at least some important photos.
So the newspaper archives, are they usually open to the public?
In some areas, in others, you know, depending on the size of the newspaper. But of course, the first thing is you've got to do the hunt and, you know, through one of the services and see, A, if the newspapers in that community have already been scanned, or B, contact the newspaper and see what they've done as far as their holdings. Many of them have photographs, but others don't, and they'll have hard copies or microfilmed copies of their newspapers.
He's Ron Fox. He's my photo buddy, and thank you so much, Ron. Great advice as always, and we look forward to seeing you soon at Roots Tech.
We're going to be there.
Tom Perry talks preservation next on Extreme Genes. Well, Genies, my personal family history researcher who sends me new information day and night has sent me some incredible new records and newspaper stories lately. Hi, it's Fisher, and the name of that researcher, by the way, is myheritage.com. It's the hardest working service in genealogy, looking for records of your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, even while you're sleeping. How does it work? MyHeritage uses hundreds of algorithms to match your ancestors to over 5 billion records from around the world. world, and with 97% accuracy. That means no more wasting time figuring out whether or not a match really is a match. I hear from listeners all the time who are shocked with how much information is accurately found and then passed along. And now MyHeritage will translate your ancestors' names into English or any other language you like from foreign records. In fact, it works with over 40 languages. No one else does this. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned researcher, you need MyHeritage.com.
Extreme Genes is sponsored in part by 23andme.com, a personalized genetic service that helps you understand what your 23 pairs of chromosomes, your DNA, say about you. 23andme.com gives you a snapshot view of your DNA with more than 60 detailed reports on your health, traits, and ancestry, plus tools to explore and compare your DNA with family and friends. 23andme.com is the first and only genetic service available directly to you that includes reports that meet FDA standards. Here's how it works. Order your DNA kit from 23andme.com. Provide your saliva sample from home and mail it back to a CLIA certified lab. Then you'll be notified when your reports are ready online. You'll also receive ongoing reports as new genetic discoveries are made and as 23andme.com is able to clear new reports through the FDA. See why more than 1 million people are experiencing their genetics with 23andme.com. Order your DNA kit today at 23andme.com.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've been working with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins or heirs to property. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476. Call now or register online to get a free estimate. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries. legacytree.com.
And welcome back. It is time to talk preservation on America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, the Radio Root Sleuth, and this segment is brought to you by MyHeritage.com. Tom Perry's here from TMCPlace.com. Hi, Tom. How are you?
Super.
All right. Let's talk a little about this. You know, we've been hearing a lot about the disasters. They're still cleaning up in Puerto Rico. I think there's still a lot of folks in Texas dealing with the aftermath of everything that happened there, Florida as well. And I'm hearing more and more talk about the disaster after the disaster when it comes to preserving things that people had damaged, mostly by water.
You know, a lot of these disaster cleanup places across the country are awesome what they can do for your home, but they really don't have experience with your memories, with your photos, your slides, your film. And so I don't know where they're getting their information from, but unfortunately a lot of it is not good. For instance, California had all those fires, and then after everything burnt, they had the mudslides on top of those. And so they've got VHS tapes that are covered with mud. And I have people send us emails that listen to the show and say, hey, the disaster cleanup guys told me to take all my film and photographs and put them in the freezer.
Oh, wow. Really?
Now
let's think about this for a minute. Let's think about this, because you've always been preaching, don't store stuff in a closet with a wall that's bounded on the other side by the outdoors, because you get the temperature that goes up and it goes down at the different times of year. And that causes expansion and contraction, and it destroys things. Right?
Exactly.
And so if you go and put things in a freezer, I'm thinking, well, that's just going to bust things apart, is it not?
Exactly. How does ice work? When ice gets in a crack in the road, it makes potholes. So I think what's happening is these people that are at disaster cleanup places are thinking, if you put it in the freezer, it's going to stop mold and stop all these kinds of things. Yeah, that's true, but sometimes the cure is worse than the sickness itself. So I highly don't recommend that unless you're in a situation where you have to do something now. You're not going to be able to get to it for months, and that is your only option. But,
But why? Why would that be the only option? I'm thinking if you've got a freezer, then you must have, say, a refrigerator.
Exactly.
I mean, wouldn't that accomplish what they're telling you to do and the reason?
Oh, yeah. Like if you have a crisper in your refrigerator, you can usually adjust the temperature and the humidity. And the humidity is not going to do too much damage depending what you have your temperature set at. But if you have a high humidity and really cold, then you're still going to get ice crystals on your special memories. And the problem with the ice crystals is the mylar itself that the film is made on probably won't crack.
You're talking if it's film, right?
Right, yeah. Film, slides, anything that's like optical that you can hold up to the light and look through. So your mylar that the film is made out of is probably going to be okay. However, that emulsion on the other side of it is so thin that can expand and extract, and you can get lines in it. You can actually get physical cracks in it, all kinds of things.
Chips?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. You can get anything. And the thing is, if you go and then handle it when it's frozen, and you happen to flex the film a little bit, boom, there goes all your emulsion.
Oh.
So I highly recommend you don't do that. Now, just remember, as you mentioned, if you've got a freezer that's working, you must have electricity, so you probably have water. And even if you don't have good water and you can't get bottled water, at least you can clean the mud and stuff off in a bath and just be really, really careful with it. If you have bottled water, that's going to be better. So just make a bath and clean your photos, your slides, whatever, except your VHS tapes. Don't touch those. And then make sure when you stack them back together, you don't set them on top of each other without something like wax paper between them, because otherwise what they're going to do is they're going to dry to each other, and then you've got to go to a professional place, and they're going to have to re-soak them, take them apart, and you're going to have all kinds of other bad options that you're going to have to deal with. If you have that T-fill or anything like that that is nonstick coating, you can put stuff on that too, but then you're only going to be able to spread out so many. That's why I recommend going with something like wax paper or laying them out on a cotton sheet face up and letting them dry. And they are going to curl. You're going to have problems with that too, but you can take care of that when you get into scanning.
Oh, my gosh. It just gets worse and worse when people go through these tragedies. All right, we're going to talk more about this and pick it up in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chart Masters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartMasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chart Masters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chart Masters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chart Masters today at FamilyChartMasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chart Masters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities, and it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's top 10 tips for beginning genealogists from the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. Back back at it, talking preservation with Tom Perry from tmcplace.com. It is Fisher here with the Preservation Authority. And Tom, we've just been talking about the disaster after the disaster. It's when the disaster relief people give you bad advice about preserving your photographs. We've been talking about film and slides and all this. Now let's talk about what you put off for a moment, and that was the VHS tapes.
Right. Any kind of magnetic tape, whether it's VHS tapes, audio tapes, you're opening up a whole new can of worms. Because the thing is, if you go and put those through a bath, which is nice, you can do that. However, you have to be really, really careful, because if you give it the bath and get all the mud off and everything, that's awesome. However, all that water that's on there sometimes can take the tape and it's going to stick to itself, and then you try to run it, and it's going to be like trying to pull double-sided tape apart from each other.
Ooh.
And it's really, really, really going to be nasty. So you need to find somebody in your area that's experiencing this. Say, hey, if I bring my VHS and audio tapes into you, how are you going to take care of them? And if it doesn't make sense to you, send us an email, and then we'll try and find out what we can do to help you. If your tapes have been rewound tight, which is not good, but in this situation would be good, that if you can just real carefully get the mud off with the water, ionized water or something like that, so you don't get any kind of infections in them. Because if you get mold, they're going to have to use a special machine that's all they do is moldy tapes, because they don't want to put those spores on somebody else's tape, and then they're going to have them.
Is this the one you throw out when you're done with it?
Exactly. A lot of times you just get these. We get them at like Goodwill, an old machine, and throw them away. The problem is Goodwill doesn't even have very many anymore. So what we've had to do with some of our machines is after we're done, we have to have our tech that does all of our maintenance go through and give it an industrial cleaning to get it off so we can run somebody else's job, because the machines are just really hard to find now.
Wow. And you used to do this all the time. You'd buy it cheap and then charge it to the customer and then get rid of the thing, junk it.
Oh, yeah. You used to be able to pick one up for $100 really cheap, be no problem, go to Goodwill, any place like this and get them. But they are as scarce as hen's teeth. You just can't find them anymore. And so we've got some really nice machines that were kind of getting old and weren't the best in the world, and had our guy go through and clean them up, cannibalize some parts off some other machines, and make a good machine. And so we use that exclusively for ones that come in that have mold on them, because then we just go in and industrial clean it after every job, because the mold's the mold. It's already there.
Yeah, but you've just made a real case why people need to get on this right now if they have old VHS tapes that they need digitized wherever they are in the country, because people aren't going to be able to actually play some of this stuff back as machines fade away more and more, right?
That is so true, especially with some of the tapes like Video Ace that weren't around as long as some of the other ones, and some of the other odd tapes. Like if you have the old dictaphone tapes, you're not going to be able to find them probably in 5 or 10 years. So no matter how much you're willing to pay, you might not be able to find anybody to transfer them for you. So this is something you really need to get moving on. Any of the strange tapes you have, you need to get those done. We're going to have reel-to-reel machines probably forever. We're going to have some of the VHS tapes forever, but they're going to get weaker and weaker. But the digital 8s, the high 8s, the regular 8s, they're disappearing, and you just can't find the decks anymore.
To play them back, but then not only that, of course, these tapes are fading as time goes on. So,
and if you've got the old machine, make sure you keep it, because we've had more and more people bring us in tapes that we call mated to the machine, which means somehow the camera got dropped or something happened to it, and it's off so ever slightly. So your tape plays fine on that because we recorded on that, but you put it on our high-end machine, and you're going to see lines on it. You're going to see different things because the heads aren't in the exact same spot as yours that got broken. So you need to bring your machine in, tie it into our system, and then we can run it. And most of the ones in your neighborhood will be able to do the same thing for you.
Wow. Boy, it's a complicated little world. Thanks so much, Tom. We'll see you again next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, that is our show for this week. Thanks for joining us. Hope you got a lot out of it. Hey, during the rest of the week, stay in touch with us on Facebook, on Twitter, through our Patron Club. This is where you can support us, and we can give you some bonus material, early access to podcasts, bonus podcasts, and other great benefits. And you can also sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. It is absolutely free. It's easy to find. Just click on it at extremegenes.com. Hey, good luck in your research. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for joining us. And remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.